Divorce is tough on everyone, as you know. We were just talking about that here when you joined us, folks. Dr. Kenner and Bud Klueck are here to explain how divorce affects all members of the family, even adult children.
Yep.
So maybe we should talk the legal side of it first, because this is kind of interesting as to what's the responsibility of people when they get a divorce and how legally it affects. Because I thought 18... goodbye, no?
Well, it extends throughout your life if you're dealing with a mentally challenged individual, or what they call in the law an adult disabled child. Actually can extend throughout their lives. There was a Court of Appeals case a few years back, Joe, where mom in fact died, but she left behind a trust which paid a certain allowance every month for the benefit of this child, now adult child. And the child support formula, the guideline child support mathematical formula, has 4 variables in it. Two of them are what dad makes and what mom makes. So dad's point of view, and his lawyers was, there ain't no mom, mom isn't around anymore, and therefore there's no mom's income, and therefore we can't have a guideline formula. And the Court of Appeals says, not so fast. We'll just use the allowance for mom's side of the equation, we'll plug in dad's actual income, and we'll come up with a guideline child support order. And the court did that, and that was upheld on appeal. So you can go very far if the child has mental challenges.
All right. Oh, I understand that. That sounds more than reasonable. What about now just a child who turns 18? Or there's something because we were talking earlier about 18, 19. I'm confused.
Sure. Child support obligation ends at 18 if the child is not a full-time high school student. In other words, they've either graduated or they've dropped out. Then it ends at 18. But if they are a full-time high school student, then it continues beyond the age of 18 up to the month that you turn 19, and then it stops under any circumstances. So very often people turn 18 while they're still in high school, and the child support extends during that 1 year between 18 and 19.
So college doesn't count?
Right. Not in California. It does in other states, Joe. For example, they have a rather complex system in Oregon, one of our sister states, where if the child is going to an accredited college and they have a certain grade point average, in other words, they're passing, then dad has to give some, mom has to contribute some, and the child himself or herself actually has to earn stuff. That's a very complicated formula. There have been some moves in California to have guideline child support for college-age people, but they've never passed. Other states have longer child support. For example, I believe New York extends it to the age of 21. But California, it's between 18 and 19, if they're a full-time high school student, and college not, unless you contract for it.
And it's obviously very traumatic. Dr. Kenner is here with us too, of course, to talk about that, because and we always hear about the trauma for younger children, but adult children as well.
It's the same thing, Joe. Adults go through a mourning period just like children and adolescents do when their parents divorce. And in fact, with adults, oftentimes they'll sit back and say, you know, should we have seen this coming earlier in their life? And so it's traumatic, and there's a mourning period. And then what gets even more complicated is a couple of things. One, that the parents who are getting divorced also go through a regression and oftentimes become then dependent on their children to help get them through it. So there's a role reversal that ends up happening.
Boy, sure.
And it's a hard one. So the adult children actually have to become, in a sense, parents to their parents during those kinds of times, because it can be very, very difficult.
So obviously you need some help there. You need some counseling so that doesn't happen,
or family support. It's really important that if parents get divorced, that the adult children really bond together with their siblings and really try to work together as a collective.
I imagine there's a lot of guilt on all sides. There is. Even the kids of all ages. Geez, did I cause that? Am I the problem? And that doesn't have an age limitation, does it?
That's always the first thing that happens with children. They always think, okay, it must have been something that I did, or something that happened. Adult children will say the same thing. Like, you know, was there something? Were we too difficult as kids? Did we cause too much stress? And so those are issues that have to get worked through. But it's a tough time for everybody involved. Always.
So there's that grieving period, and you must work together.
The whole grieving cycle, where you're sad and you're in despair and you get angry and all those things happen.
You know, that's why you're both very important. You've got to have the legal and the psychological
it helps.
Together.
It helps. It helps.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, well, thank you so much.
Always.
You guys do a great job. Get a hold of Bud. All right, if you have any questions at all about it, you don't have to even be going through a divorce. You can still call Bud and ask situations, or maybe people that you know that could use his help.